You're listening to the Nacho Kids Podcast, where we discuss all things step family related. Real stories, real people, real help. Your hosts are the creators of the Nacho Kids Method and the Nacho Kids Academy Step Family Coaching Team, Lori and David Sims.
Today we have Daniel Ryan, a family law attorney in the UK.
Hi.
Hi, Daniel.
Good to see you. Welcome to the UK.
I love it there.
Yes, I know you. We've said before, haven't we? When we've been talking before, you've been over here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but I think it's like everywhere else. You love where you don't live, right? I mean, not that you don't love where you live, but it's just different, right?
It's true. No, it's very true. No, that's very true. Because I lived in London for a while. And everybody loves London. Mm-hmm. Everybody who visits London says it's wonderful. And you go to Buckingham Palace and you go and see all the sights. I lived in London for 3 years and never went to a single thing that the tourists go and see.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So there we go. But we are now here. I now live in the middle of nowhere in the countryside, up in the north of the country. So yeah, it's a long way from anywhere.
Yeah, and we were just talking. It's 10:30 at night.
It is 10:30 at night here on a whatever day it is. But yes, it was 10:30 at night here. So I've been in court today with some clients, and and now we are talking to you.
Great. And you always work late, so this isn't an exception.
This is not an exception. Because the problem we have here, well, it's not the problem. It's a problem I quite like having, is that during the day, obviously, I spend a lot of time in court, and if I'm not in court, then I'm in the office. But the phone rings all day long, all day. So you need that at this time of night to actually get some work done.
I completely understand. Sometimes I'll wake up real early. And it's easier just to go to work and get some stuff done, and then to go take a nap. But I have a feeling you're not taking naps during the day.
Unfortunately, I'm not taking naps. No, I've over the years I'm terrible. I'm very unhealthy. So over the years I got used to working 16, 18-hour days, day in and day out, and you just do it, you know.
Yeah, I don't see how.
Well, no. If I think too long about it, I do wonder why I'm doing it. But yeah.
Well, you and I did talk before, but unfortunately, the recording didn't take. And I was so upset. So, again, I really appreciate you doing this again.
Not at all.
And like I said, with menopause, I don't really remember a whole lot of what we talked about anyway. So we're good.
You see, it's just like being married, Laurie.
Yeah. Don't remember anything, right?
We don't remember a word that was said.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we are here. We are going to talk some more, or talk again, about family law on my side of the water and family law on your side of the water, and the joy of blended families and the difficulties of children and all of that.
So you used to be married.
I did. I have been married before, yes.
And you've been single for how many years?
Let's think now, nearly 20.
And we really don't have to ask why you're single when you're at the office every night till 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, because I'm single because I'm the most antisocial person in the world. I talk to my clients and I don't talk to anybody else.
Well, that's probably enough some days, isn't it?
Some days that's more than enough. Yeah, that's more than, because you're carrying everybody else's pain. You know, that's what you do. So, you know, everybody who rings me, because obviously that, you know, that they're not ringing me because they're having a good time. They're ringing me because they're in trouble. So yeah. So every phone call has a very large dose of pain in it.
Yeah, we're kind of the same. People usually don't come to us until they're at their wits' end and ready to give up.
No,
Why don't we have some happy people call us, Daniel? You know?
I know. Often, people will say to me, "Oh, do you ever get a couple come in and they just want to be reasonable and they just want to sort it out?" And I said, "Well, if they did, they don't come to find me, do they?"
Right.
They people come to me because they want me to fight for them, and because and they want me to deal with the other side and teach him a lesson or teach her a lesson, and that's fine. That's not what we do, thankfully, but that's what they're looking for when they walk through our door.
Mm-hmm. And that's what most people do, right? They want to win, right?
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, people do. They come into family court and they are coming in because they believe it is a battle, they believe it's a fight, and they believe that somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. Unfortunately, in family court, the reality is everybody loses.
Yes.
There are no winners. There are no winners. The fact that you're there in the first place, you've already lost. And obviously the biggest losers in that particular scenario, what I do day in and day out, is the children who are caught up in the middle of it. Because
right.
They didn't ask to be there. It wasn't their fight. They don't want to be in it.
Right. And the judge is supposed to be impartial.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's the idea. And they are supposed to do what's in the best interest of the child, which is determined by the representation of their attorney in probably, on average, I'd say 45 minutes max.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, most hearings here in the UK are between 45 minutes and an hour. That's pretty much there's very occasionally longer ones, but yeah, a lot of them are that sort of length, and you are deciding people's lives in that relatively short period of time.
Mm-hmm. And based off what you're saying, so if you were a crappy attorney, then these people might lose their kid, right?
That's very true. That's very true. It has, unfortunately, family court has nothing to do with what is the best thing for the children. Family court has to do with which legal can deliver the best argument. And that argument doesn't necessarily have to be true. It's which legal can tell the best story.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in the States, we have seen a lot more people go pro se. And I would have never been comfortable doing that, because if I would have lost time with my child, I would have never forgiven myself. But I say that, but saying at the same time, I think that it would be better sometimes if the person represented themselves, because a judge is more apt to see what that person's like. You can't hide some of that snarkiness and that, your personality. You can't hide it all the time.
No, you're absolutely right, and we are getting a very significant move towards people representing themselves over here, and we call them litigant in person here in the UK. But we're getting a very, very distinct move towards that, and it's for one reason and one reason only. It's the cost. It's the cost of having legal representation. It's incredibly expensive. And people can't afford it. So, so we are getting that, but you're absolutely right, because you can have the loveliest parent, the best parent, the fairest parent in the world, but if their legal is telling the story badly, the judge will not see that. They won't recognize that. And obviously the other side of that coin is, a legal who can tell a really good story about a really bad parent.
Right.
The judge doesn't see it. So you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Sometimes it is much better for parents to represent themselves to some degree in order that the judge hears their voice.
Right. And how often do you see over there that the judge even talks to the kids?
Very, very rarely. It's very rare that the judge engages with the children at all. Over here, we have a social work department which is dedicated. So they're child specialists, and they're dedicated to the court system. So they talk to the children. So they go off and talk to the children as qualified social workers. But the judge very, very rarely has any engagement at all with the children.
Are the qualified social workers like guardian ad litems?
Yes, yeah. That's one of the roles they fulfill. They're called CAFCAS over here, CAFCASS, which is Child and Family Assistance Service. But yeah, essentially, yeah, they fulfill a guardian role. Yeah.
Well, I find it ironic, the last three letters.
Yeah.
Because I've heard some bad stories about guardian ad litems here.
Well, there are over here, because I say, unfortunately, like everybody, everybody in life has their own opinion and has their own attitude towards a situation. And so, you get a guardian in place who you believe is going to be incredibly impartial and just represent the best interests of the children, etc., etc., etc. But unfortunately, because we're all human beings, they naturally align to one parent or another. And so they walk into court and then they're very clearly on one parent's side. And that's one of the biggest problems that I have. One of the biggest issues I have is that, if you don't get the guardian on side, you can really be fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, because the judge or the court weighs their testimony very heavily.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have a sort of a standing position here that says 95% of the time, and that's a big number, 95% of the time, what the social worker, what the guardian says, what they recommend is what the court is going to do.
Wow.
So when you walk into a court and you think, well, actually, I don't like these recommendations, I don't think they're right, you have got one hell of a battle to get the court to recognize and move their position towards you.
Well, here's a question for you. If they already had the guardian ad litem, why doesn't the guardian ad litem just talk to the judge and say, this is my recommendation, and the people not have to have attorneys?
Because we operate this open justice system that says everybody's entitled to an opinion. And so mum and dad are entitled to their own opinion, and they're entitled to be represented, and they're entitled to disagree, with the guardian. And and you can have a situation, I have it quite often, where the guardian's got a set of recommendations that they are standing by, and dad completely disagrees with them, and he's got his own set of recommendations that he wants to push forward. And mum completely disagrees with them, and she's got another set of recommendations that she wants to push forward. So you've got the judge sat staring at three possible outcomes that he can rule on, or she can rule on, and they've got to pick out essentially which one they think is best.
And obviously, they're going to think the guardian ad litem is best because they don't have a quote, quote, dog in the fight, right?
Exactly. That's where they start. They always start with, well, what does the guardian say? And then it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because if you push against the guardian, if you say, well, judge, I just need to point out that actually I disagree with the guardian. Some of the guardian's analysis is wrong. Some of the guardian's analysis is biased. Some of the guardian's analysis is clearly leaned towards one parent or the other. And I need
listen, mostly who the guardians usually go with.
They mostly lean towards mum over here. Dad does have an uphill battle over here. And I think that's the same all around the world. I think the same issue lies all around the world. But yeah, so you really are working hard and to get a change of position. And I mean, as I say, over here, and it's the same everywhere. My dad clients, of which I have a lot of dad clients and I have a lot of mum clients that we look after. My dad clients, we have to work twice as hard for.
Just because they're male versus female.
Yep. Just because they are not mum. And mum is regarded in the family court as the primary parent. And she has this almost untouchable position in family court where she is, that's it, it's mum. And you have got to work awfully hard to convince a court that actually mum might not be right this time. There might be, maybe dad is actually the better person to sit in that role. And you have to work really hard. Really hard. And a lot of mums' behaviour, and I say we look after mums as well as we look after dads, but a lot of mums' behaviour is allowed to slip. Whereas if dad presented the same behaviour, he would be hung out to dry.
Is it because it's expected that women are more emotional?
I think it is. I think it's just that natural mum equals children, children equals mum.
Right.
That's it. Mum is it. The maternal bond is more important, and this is a terrible thing to say, but the maternal bond is more important than the paternal bond. And that's dreadful, but that's the reality. What we see over here, that is the reality.
Yeah. And we are starting to see kind of an upswing in places being what we'll consider dad states now, or dad counties. And which is interesting because I've never heard anybody say it's a child's county.
Oh, well, yes, exactly. There's none of those. I say over here, there are no child-friendly courts. There are judges who are fairer. There are judges who are perhaps pro-dad. There are some judges who I know, and obviously I work all over the country, and there are some judges who I see as being quite pro-dad. But you're absolutely right. There's never a judge where I think, and I'm thinking now off the top of my head, but there's nobody I can think where I think that judge is pro-child.
Yeah. And that's what all of them should be, right?
They all should be that. They all should be that first and foremost. But no, in my view, and again, not a great view to have, but in my view, the children are assets, and the court is looking to give them to somebody.
Right. That's crazy to think of it that way.
It is. It's sad to think of it that way. It's immensely sad to think of it that way. But that is my experience over here. That you are managing assets, and how best do we deal with these assets?
Have you ever had a judge like change the guardian ad litem, or say, let's assign another guardian ad litem because something's kind of wonky with this one? Or
never.
Wow.
Never. I've had guardians challenged by the parties, by mum and dad, who've said we want to change the guardian because we don't like what he or she is doing, but that will always fail.
Not even a chance.
Not in my experience. No.
Wow. And are most of the guardian ad litems women, or
yes.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly so.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly so. I'm just having a little think now while I'm talking to you, Laurie, and I can't remember the last time I worked with a male guardian.
Wouldn't that be interesting to have more men guardians? I bet it would change things.
Yeah, it would, but that's sort of a broader problem over here, because over here, obviously, the guardians are social workers, and apart from the dedicated department for the court, we obviously have social workers across the country in every town. Every town has its own, and every city has its own social work department. And if we looked at that population of social workers, I would expect probably 80 to 90% of them to be women.
Oh, my goodness.
That would be my view.
Yeah. Now here, I think a lot of times the guardian ad litems are also attorneys.
Okay, not here.
Not there. Okay.
No, the guardian is a social worker, not legally qualified. They're a social worker.
And here, I'm not sure if you have to be an attorney, but most of them are.
Yeah, no, they're social workers over here. And then the guardian, the social worker who has a guardian, or becomes a guardian, they then appoint their own attorney, their own lawyer, to work for them.
Okay.
And that is paid for by the court, in order that mum has representation, we assume, dad has representation, we assume, and the guardian who is representing the children, they have their own legal representation.
That's odd to me. I mean, it makes sense in a way, but then it's like, well, the guardian, they're not a parent. Why are they given that same right? But somebody's got to speak for the kids, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, somebody has to represent the children, and it's we refer to it over here as the wishes and feelings of the children, and the guardian's primary role is to represent the wishes and feelings of the children, and obviously, if those children are incredibly young, the guardian isn't ever going to get their true wishes and feelings because they're too young to transmit them. So the guardian has to draw her own conclusions.
So, is anytime a child's involved, there's a guardian assigned?
Not every time. There's always a social worker assigned. So there's always a CAFCAS, as we would call it, social worker. Every child case has a court-appointed social worker working on it.
Okay.
But at the point in proceedings where the judge feels that wherever the children are, either living with mum primarily or living with dad primarily, if the judge feels that he is not getting to hear the voice of those children because it's being distorted by mum's opinion, because mum is saying, or dad's opinion, because mum is saying, oh, the children say they don't want to see dad.
Right.
So if the judge feels that's happening, that's when he says, I feel these children need their own guardian, and I need to move legally, not physically, but legally, move these children away from these parents so they are independent in this court.
Right. And I would think that happens a lot.
It's becoming more frequent. Certainly becoming more frequent. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's talk about parental alienation for a minute.
Yes.
That is something here that I would say in the last 5-10 years is starting to be recognized a little by the courts more and more.
Mm-hmm.
There are also agencies that work with the court system to help the alienated parent gain access to their child.
Okay.
From my understanding, it's if you had a child and your wife kept that child from you or your ex, then you could go to this place, pay all this money. They're going to go to court for you too. Somehow like I said, somehow they got in the court system and they're going to say, I haven't been able to see my child for 2 years. And it ends up being where they go, okay, today after court, we're taking this child and this child's going home with Daniel because he has been kept from this child for 2 years and he's going to stay with Daniel for 6 months.
Okay.
And it rips the child out of their current life into a different life of almost a stranger at times.
Yep.
Do y'all have stuff like that?
We aren't nowhere near as formal. We are probably a year or two behind you in terms of recognizing parental alienation. The court, as recently as December just gone, so sort of whatever that is now, 10 months ago, the court published guidelines about parental alienation for the first time ever.
Wow.
Prior to that, the court was very, very reluctant to talk about parental alienation, to even acknowledge that it existed. So some guidelines were published last December, and we refer to them as the 3 R's. So if a child is giving evidence of refusal, reluctance, or resistance, so resistant wanting to see the parent, reluctant to see a parent, refusing to see a parent, then we believe possibly alienation is at play. But the process is still dealt with in exactly the same way as every other child matter, that one parent has legal representation, the other parent has legal representation. And if the court feels that alienation is at play, they will introduce a guardian to represent the child. So we haven't got agencies, and to be fair, I can see a huge value to that, but we haven't got agencies as you have currently who are specializing in alienation. We don't have that. As I say, because at the moment we are some way behind, and we're just kind of catching up with alienation and saying, well, do you know what? We kind of need to start to realize that this is what parents do.
Right.
Parents indoctrinate their children. Parents manipulate their children. They radicalize their children because it's back to the asset argument again. Parents see their children as assets, and I will own the asset. And in order to own the asset, I will infiltrate the asset with absolute hatred towards the other parent. That is what I will do.
Yes.
And I've got too many examples, and some of them are horrendous. But where we differ, because obviously you've just given the example of a parent who'd gone to court and they've taken the child away and handed it to the other parent and said, there you go live for 6 months. We would never do that here, because the court recognizes that even though one parent is damaging that child, harming that child psychologically with what they are doing to them, If they took that child away from that parent and handed them to the other parent, the damage could be significantly worse, because you are handing a child, and if we look at it from a child's perspective, a child is being handed to a person that they hate, a person that they have been told is dangerous, a person they've been told is looking to hurt them, a person they've been told who has hurt them in the past. He used to beat you when you were a child. She used to beat you when you were a child. So the court won't do that. The court is stuck in this very difficult situation of saying, well, I know what you're doing to these children, but I can't take them off you because I've got nowhere for them to go.
Right. Yeah.
And so they have to stay with you until I can work out what I'm going to do. And I'm not sure I'll ever arrive at that solution. And so, I can think now I've got a couple of very, very recent examples, without going into the detail, but very recent examples where the judge has been very clearly frustrated and has been very honest. And I had one about 3 or 4 months ago, where the judge said to the mother, you have damaged these children to such a degree that they will live with the implications of this for all of their lives. But I cannot take them away from you, because if I do, I fear that they will run away if I give them to Dad, because they're so frightened of him. They will start to self-harm. They will do something to themselves. I can't have that. I can't do that.
Right.
So they've got to stay with you. But understand that, this court is repulsed by what you have done.
It doesn't change things that much, right?
No. The mother just sits and listens and says, well, yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm still leaving with the kids. So you can say what you like. I'm still leaving with the kids.
Yeah, exactly. So she won, right?
Yep, exactly. That's exactly how it's seen.
Yeah. Now, I know there have been instances, and I'm sure they are there, where the children are taught to lie about Dad doing inappropriate things with them.
Yep.
And Dad is forced to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to get to see their kid because of this accusation. And I would say, I'm guessing 89.9% of the time, it's not true. But there are no repercussions for the women that do this to those men. I'm sure you experience the same.
It's exactly the same. False allegation in court, but be it mum making allegations and as I say, allegations of whatever, sexual abuse against herself, sexual abuse against the children, or indeed Dad making allegations. The problem we have in the court is that the court goes through a process where it eventually arrives at a conclusion that it's not true, but there are no consequences.
Right.
There are no nobody. The judge then doesn't say to the parent who has lied for the last year and kept this process going for the last year. The judge doesn't just say, well, as a result of that, I'm now going to do this. I'm now going to impose imprisonment on you. I'm now going to impose a fine on you. I'm now going to do whatever I'm going to do.
Or even make you pay the attorney's fees.
Pick up the cost order for the other side. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. And I know some judges very, very well, and I know that frustrates judges. That lack of power, that lack of, because they haven't got, and I refer time and time again, and I'm not always thanked for it, but I refer to the family court over here as the toothless tiger. Because that's what it is. You go in there frightened, but then you very quickly realize that actually it's got no teeth. It can't do anything. It can't do anything to you.
All right, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Because at first I'm like, what are you talking about? But then it hit me. All right, you got a court order. Here's my court order, right? And I see where my ex is doing A, B, and C, breaking the court order. What do I have to do? I have to go get an attorney to convince the judge that my ex, my son's father or whatever, is doing these things. or not doing these things.
Yep.
And again, I would say 90% of the time, if not more, it's don't do that again.
Exactly. Yeah, you're carrying the cost burden of it. You're you're having to deliver your case and fund your case, and often, and I'm sure it's the same with you as it is over here, the other side will turn up completely unrepresented.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no cost. There's no cost to them at all.
Right.
They just stroll into court, and the judge says, "Well, you've done this, and you've done this, and you've done this." And they go, "Yeah." And the judge says, "Well, don't do it again." They go, "Yeah, okay." And they stroll out, but you've spent, £10,000, $10,000, $100,000, whatever it might be. You've spent a huge amount of money in order for that to happen.
Right.
And you think, well, what was the point of that?
Right.
Because all you've done, Judge, is you've just given him or her a carte blanche, as we call it. So just a free rein to do what you like, because nothing's going to happen when you come back here.
Exactly. So it's almost, what's the point of the court order, right?
Yep.
It's court orders are only good for people that are going to follow them and look at them as the law, right?
Yeah. You have to. There is a reliance. Family law. There is a reliance on people having a respect for the law, and if you don't have that respect for the law, there's just nothing they can do. There's just nothing they can do. One of my best examples was, this was a mum. This was a number of years ago now. She didn't bother turning up at the first hearing. Just didn't bother. Mm-hmm. So obviously then Dad stood there. He's trying to deal with a child issue. The court says nothing we can do because she's not here. We'll have to just tell her to come to the next one. She missed 8 hearings in a row, lasting over 2 years. She just didn't bother turning up. Everyone, well, she's not here. We'll have to tell her to come to the next one. She's not here. We'll have to tell her to come to the next one. 8 hearings, 2 years passed, until eventually I said, we can't keep doing this. And I'd said it on the second hearing, on the third hearing, on the fourth hearing. We got to the 8th one, and I said, we cannot just keep doing this. Mm-hmm. We can't just keep saying, oh, well, we'll get her next time.
Right.
So the judge agreed with me, thankfully. I found a half reasonable judge. He agreed with me, and he issued a warrant for her arrest.
Oh.
And so we said, okay, well, that's great. So we're assuming that, that's going to happen, and then she's going to come to court another day and blah, blah, blah. And the judge said, no, I've issued a warrant for her to be collected now. So he sent a police car to her where she worked and had her arrested and brought to court.
Wow. Go judge, right?
There's a great judge. But again, she comes into court, and obviously she's now frightened because, she's just been picked up by 2 police officers.
At work, in front of everybody, right?
In front of all of her work colleagues. And he said, this is not great. This is embarrassing. And she's just been dragged into court. She's walked into court. Then, of course, at that point, the judge then realizes, well, actually, there's nothing I can do, really. So I just kind of have to sort of growl at her a bit and, raise my voice a little bit and tell her that she's a real disappointment.
Yeah.
We're trying to sort these children out. And then we carried on and we sorted it out over the course of another 3 or 4 hearings. But it was just that 2 years, 8 hearings. And because she just said, no, I'm not going. I'm just not going. I have no respect for the law. I'm just not going.
She obviously had the kids.
She had the children. Yeah. She had the children. Yep.
See, that's BS.
Yeah, it is. It is, because that is, I'm in control. I control all the pawns in this game, and bad luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I know when we talked before, I mentioned that my husband and I had said AI would be a better judge because there's no feelings, right? There's no persuasion. It doesn't know if you're male or female or good looking or ugly or rich or poor. It's just going to take the information, dump it somewhere and say, this is the output, right? Or to have a panel of judges. So you just don't have one person that can be biased. They may not even realize they're being biased. It's in you from how you grew up and all these things you've experienced in life. But it's the way that it's set up now is not working.
It's not. No, it's definitely not. The system. Well, the system is set up to battle. The system is set up to fight.
Mm-hmm.
you come into a courtroom over here, and it's exactly the same courtrooms in the States, because I lived in the States, so I'm aware of courtrooms. The judge sits up high from everybody else, and he looks down like he's some sort of Roman emperor.
Mm-hmm.
And a battle ensues in front of him, and he sits and he watches the fight, and then he decides what the outcome's going to be. We need to get away from that. That's not working anymore.
Right.
Because people don't have the social attitude in order to tolerate that environment. The good old days of, well, I'm in a court of law. I'm quite intimidated.
Yeah,
I'm very respectful.
Proper. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very proper place, and that man up there, he has got huge, supreme authority. None of that's there now. None of that's there now. I've got people strolling into court wearing football kits and trainers, and and it's just I just popped in on my way to the shops.
Yeah.
So the respect is gone. So that we need to change that system and look at something else. We need to look at a different way of doing this, and there needs to be more people involved. And you're absolutely right. There needs to be more people involved than just one man or indeed one woman who ultimately makes a decision.
Right.
It needs to be more than that.
Yeah.
It needs to be more than that.
How many judges would you say are women?
It's still predominantly men. I have to say, it is still predominantly men over here, but we do have an increasing number of women, an increasing number of female judges over here.
And they're elected, right?
They're not elected. No, we don't elect our judges. They earn the right to be a judge. They essentially apply for the job. They go through they do a series of legal jobs, mainly as barristers, as we call them, counsel, and then they can apply to become a judge, or they get called to become a judge. So,
okay.
So they earn it over a number of years.
Okay. So that's just like their next step in their.
It's their next step in their career.
Would you ever be a judge?
No. I've had conversations about sort of joining the bench, as we call it, and no, I can't see it.
Why?
I like what I do. I like the fact that somebody needs to be at sort of my end of the system, looking after people who are vulnerable.
Right.
And that's what I do. That's what I've done for 20 years with my practice. That's what my team do. We look after people who are vulnerable. And I am best placed to do that by being on the floor of the court rather than in some, elevated position looking down.
Right. And that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's so I think, I know my place.
Yeah. You know where your strengths are, right?
Yes.
You have more power to help people in this position than you would as a judge.
Yes, I think so. Because obviously judges don't get involved in the detail. They don't get involved in the nitty gritty. They come in and they look at a situation and they make a decision off it, and that's fine. I entirely respect that. I get knee deep in the mud and pain.
Yeah.
And sometimes neck deep in the mud and pain, and that's where I like to be, which is perhaps a strange thing to say, but that's where I like to be. I like to be knee deep in it, and working with clients and saying, look, we are in a very short episode of your life. It'll feel horrible, and it'll feel like it lasts forever, because it might last 2 years, 3 years, or indeed a little bit longer. But in the concept of your entire life, it is a very short episode, and we just need to get you through it with as little damage and scarring as we can.
Right.
And far more importantly, we need to get your children through it with as little damage and scarring as we can, in order that 5 years will pass and you won't remember it.
Right.
Like none of us remember. People have all forgotten COVID and the impact of COVID on our daily lives. Because time has passed.
How quickly that happened, huh?
It was, yes, yeah, yeah. And family, I want family court to be the same. That's what we aim for. I say to all my clients, look, I'll get you through this journey, and it's not going to be fun, and it's not going to be comfortable. But a couple of years' time, you'll come back to me and say, do you know what? I don't remember a lot of it.
Yeah.
That's okay. That means we did our job well.
Exactly. Now, what's the longest time frame that you've seen a case last? I know here they have something that I guess it started, I'm not even going to say when, but between one of my court hearings and another, it started like a 365-day period to where things need to be closed out.
Okay. We have a model and then we have reality.
Okay.
The model is that child cases should last 6 months, 26 weeks. The reality is that most child cases last 2 years.
2
years and some longer. I have a case, and I still have a case that is currently in a couple of months' time will start its 8th year.
Wow.
It's been running for 8 years.
And the child is going to be an adult soon, I would think.
well, we're almost at the stage where the child is driving his mum and dad to court. Yeah, we're almost at that stage. But yeah, it's dreadful. We have occupied half of this child's, well, more now. But by the time this child reaches 16 years old, which is only 3 years away, I'll say. So yeah, half of this child's life, more than half of this child's life, their parents have been in court.
And we know that affects those children. And we know it affects the relationship with the parent, either one, and this child, because it's either, well, my mom got something in the mail from the attorney and it upset my mom, so it's my dad's fault, or my dad doesn't have any money, quote, quote, to take me anywhere because my mom took him back to court.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, and the impact of court proceedings, stay with children all of their lives. And they shape their attitudes towards relationships for their lives. I saw what my mum did to my dad. My dad was disposable. When my mum had enough, she threw him away, like trash. And the court helped to do that. So that's what I'll do.
Right.
Because that's an okay thing to do, because my parents have shown me that that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the difficulty we have. So that case is right. At 8 years, that case is extreme, but still, obviously, it's still going, and that's immensely sad. And
neither one of them are going to give up.
No, absolutely not. And the reason it's been running for 8 years is because they will not give up. Because as soon as we start to head towards, okay, we're going to get this, and then suddenly something new comes up. Oh, well, I forgot to mention that he did this, she did that. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking after the dad in that particular matter. And he is a very nice man, but he still cannot let go of the fight. And it doesn't matter what I say to him, he cannot let go of the fight.
It's a principle to him at this point, right?
It is. Yeah. I will not let her dictate how I run my life with my children.
But he is.
Well, which is my point. I say, well, we are 8 years in. That is exactly what is happening.
Yeah, she's dictating when you're coming to my office. She's dictating when you're going to court.
Yeah. As I say, the reason that the reason you're poor is because you've given all your money to me.
Yeah.
And the reason she's poor is because she's given all her money to her legal. And the children are suffering as a result. But yeah, it's a difficult one. It's very difficult. But the average is 2 years. I would say, if I had to put a number on it, then the average is 2 years. And that's still too long. That's too long.
That's probably about right here, too. Of course, pre-COVID. After COVID, things got kind of messed up. And I think they're finally back on track a little bit. I don't think you have to wait 6 months to get through the court system now. Yeah. But I'm not sure. I don't know. Depends on the judges. We have judges that are permanent judges, but then we've got some that rotate, and you don't ever want to get the rotating judge because they're not happy they had to drive to where you are.
Yes, quite. Yeah. We have that. Yeah. We have judges who have to travel to courts, and you if you've got a traveling judge, because they really don't want to be there.
No, they don't.
And you are going to suffer as a result of the fact that they do not want to be there.
Because it is your fault they are there.
It is absolutely your fault. There's one judge who springs to mind. If you get a case in front of that particular judge on a Friday afternoon, it is never going to go well because he wants to be driving home. Mm-hmm. He does not want to be sat in court and looking at me.
Right. Yeah. And hearing crap, right?
Exactly. As I say, so it doesn't matter how good your case is, it is never going to go well mm-hmm. because it's Friday afternoon and he does not want to be there.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And remember that life is good.
And it really is when you nacho.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nacho Kids Podcast. Find us online at nachokids.com. Until next time, remember, life is good when you nacho.